Shrink the Nation is a podcast for thoughtful, informed adults, preferably with a pour in hand. The views and opinions expressed on the show are those of the hosts and guests only and do not reflect the views of any employers, institutions, licensing boards, government agencies, bourbon distilleries, or family members, especially our family members. They've asked us to be very clear about that. This show is for informational and entertainment purposes only. Nothing said here should be taken as medical, psychiatric, legal, or professional advice. If you're in crisis, call a professional. If you're mad at something we said, we suggest journaling or emailing us with civility. We're here to challenge ideas, not diagnose strangers. We're clinicians, not your clinicians, and we have the bourbon to prove it. Let's go. All right, welcome back to Shrink the Nation. And listen, before we dive into the emotional swamp of American politics, I need everyone to take a breath, ground yourself, maybe loosen your shoulders because something genuinely dangerous is happening today. Rob and I are in the same room, physically, breathing the same air, sharing the same bourbon and beer supply. This is not a drill. Usually there's a screen between us, a healthy barrier, a digital safety net, a blessed buffer that prevents the two psychiatrist synergy from turning into a controlled burn of jokes, trauma, and questionable life choices. But today, nope, no buffer, no distance, no escape route. So brace yourselves. More psychiatrists in one place means more stories, more chaos, more bourbon, beer, and a level of unfiltered banter we cannot, in good conscience, recommend to anyone studying for the licensing exam, anything, boards, whatever. But hey, the government reopened, the country's spiraling in four directions at once, and the national nervous system is one strong gust away from dissociating. So you deserve a little extra entertainment for all our tens of listeners. So let's get into it. Two psychiatrists, one room. Hey, what could possibly go wrong? I'm David. Got my 20 plus in the military, board certified psychiatrist, twice over. And here I sit. Today, I'm going to be enjoying a couple of things because why the hell not? I'm going to be enjoying Rob's presence. Cheers.
Cheers.
I'm also going to be enjoying with Rob a Rheingeist Truth, which is an IPA, 7.2 ABV, I believe.
I believe you're absolutely right. And it is Cincinnati Brewery, Ohio's best.
It's lovely. It's
And
drinking mightily clean. And we have here Old Forester 1910, Old Fine Whiskey. The story goes, as if I recall, 1910, there was a fire on Whiskey Row that led to Old Forester being rebarreled into heavily charred barrels. And the double barrel expression is now following the same process as the original Old Fine Whiskey. So it's a smokier, kind of darker touch to it, 93 proof. And it hits like a 93, but it's good. It's good. It's not quite as sweet as all the bourbons that I usually prefer, but I like it. It's good. So we're gonna be doing that through this show today. I'm
yeah.
excited.
Hey, it's Rob. I am a board certified psychiatrist, 25 years, closing on 26, 30 years in the military, sitting in the same room with David, which feels dangerous. And yeah, I'll say that the Old Forester, which is actually one of my favorites, they have varying types. The Prohibition style, which was quote unquote medicinal, is a little high on the alcohol content for us. And we actually making sense for this show. But this one is pretty good. And when they say extra charred, they meant that it was burned on the inside and the outside because apparently at some point right around 1910, the whole distillery row caught on fire. So here we are. Let's get started.
Yeah, so we picked out 4 stories because why the hell not? We got 2 of us, we got a room, we've got bourbon, we got beer. It should be fun.
Or a nightmare.
Either way.
We get to edit it either way.
Gonna be good times. First story is, well, this one didn't even make it a whole goddamn week after our last show. But to build off last week, Marjorie Taylor Greene resigns. Color me surprised. After the breakup, from ride or die to battered wife. Marjorie Taylor Greene announced on November 21st, 2025, that she's planning to resign from Congress January 5th. So, geez, it didn't take long.
It's actually kind of stunning. So the more cynical side of me thinks, all right, she's repositioning herself for a political future that she is seeing as being more Democrat leaning, or at least more centric leaning. So that's the cynical side of me. Now, do I think that's realistic? Not really. I think really what she's going through, and if I look at her history, this is a woman who tied her identity to group think. So she was heavily engaged in conspiracy thinking prior to her political career. She has been heavily tied to the MAGA movement. And in fact, she may be cornerstone of the MAGA movement. And when you lose the blessing of the MAGA leader, I think she is really struggling with identity right now, to the extent that she can't hang. She can't stay in. She is leaving. And that is surprising that she's going to leave 11 months in advance of what she would need to.
I'm just lost, Juan.
Just heartbroken.
I'm so heartbroken
Well, the
over.
breakups are hard, man. Breakups are hard, and I can understand that entirely. What I find, I guess, most interesting is the way she's framing this. So she's went from a we standpoint to a they and a he and a me standpoint. She is taking on kind of a victim. I mean, she referenced herself as a battered spouse or a battered wife, which I do find really fascinating. She's distancing herself from all of her prior statements. She is wrapping herself in the armor of, I'm being attacked, threatened. When we can go backwards in time through the help of Google to see points in history in which she actually facilitated the attacks on other people, I have to assume that she is currently in a significant identity crisis.
Watching this it's difficult. It's really it's hard to wrap your brain around what she must be going through. If you understand her history, at least in the years that kind of led up to her getting into Congress. And for anybody who doesn't, I guess you encourage anybody to go back and kind of read her bio in the sort of the couple of years that led up to her going to Congress. She was fairly politically active, mostly as somebody who would attack Democrats, specifically targeting what is the left wing? What do they call themselves in Congress? Tlaib and AOC,
The squad.
the squad. Yeah, so she would attack them to excess, but she would do that. She was quite famous for going to their offices and screaming through their mailbox to come out and face the people and antagonize them. And then when she ran in, believe like the 10th most Republican district in the country. So by winning her primary, there was little chance that she would lose. So for her to fall from the graces of Donald Trump, the writing is on the wall for her. She knows that she's going to lose. Now, you kind of wonder then, like, why not stick it out to the end? That does make me wonder. So what is she doing this for? Does she want to be a congressperson?
Well, when your identity is built around Trumpism and Trump withdraws his endorsement of you, then you either lose identity or you build a new identity real friggin' fast.
Yeah.
Psychodynamically. And, it is interesting to watch her have to build a new identity. And we've all actually, for our tens of listeners who are probably, I mean, if you're listening to this niche podcast, you're probably engaged in general media. And if you watch her, she in the last week has been on The View. She's been on CNN, that she had previously castigated as being, fake news and whatever.
Yeah.
And actually, she's becoming a regular on CNN. She's recreating herself as we watch. Now, psychodynamically, underneath it all, my speculation is that she's recreating her identity in real time under a spotlight. And that has to be hard. I mean, it's a difficult thing to redefine yourself in general, that for any of us who've gone through a difficult time and we have to redefine what our life is, that's hard. It's particularly hard when you have the spotlight and the projection of a nation upon you. The weight is too much. So part of me is a little surprised.
Well, I still wonder, and I think this goes back to I mentioned last week, is she redefining herself or is the party redefining itself and she's trying to hold steady to her belief structure? What she has said is that I don't believe either party is serving the American people any longer. Now, I guess the question would be, has it ever, if your structure is based off of that, if what you hold to be true is what you believed in, is it really so much that things have changed that much? Or is she redefining herself? I don't know that, I'm not sure, but obviously you got to survive. And the environment that she grew up in, quote unquote, isn't accepting of her anymore. It's just not going to tolerate her if she's not willing to change with it. And so now she's trying to redefine who she is, and that means different media perspectives.
So I'm going to do a throwback to fantastic movie. I recommend it. What About Bob and Baby Steps. So in What About Bob, Baby Steps is a recurrent theme. My sense of this, honestly, is that there's a cynic in me thinking that that she is the master chessman who is playing us, and she's just repositioning herself for a leadership position, for a different political position in the future. And I am not even going to be remotely surprised if she re-engages with the political realm, with state level government, governor, senator. And she may end up doing those things as she reorganizes. But I truly think that if I look at what I can see of her life online, she has been an individual who identifies with these groups, and she identifies strongly with these groups. And at this moment, she's been excommunicated from the group where her identity lay. So I think she's actually probably in a really dark place for her, a dark place in which she is re-evaluating herself and her allegiances, what she's done. And I've personally witnessed this in interviews that she's doing online, that she's rethinking herself. And that's a challenging place. It's a place of potential growth. It's also a place in which you just sort of limbo until you go back to who you always have been. And we'll see how this plays out. But I do think she is in a difficult place. She feels like her identity has disappeared. So she's falling back to her next identity. In her post, when she said that she was going to resign, she's falling back to family. And that's a core identity builder. And she's falling back to that.
Yeah, it's an interesting move in that you have somebody in a position of power responsibility, especially from Congress. If the thought is, well, she's trying to evolve, and I guess the thought would be, well, maybe she's seen people are struggling, she wants to help the people. Then why walk away in the last 11 months? Why not make the change there? Why not try to impact that system, right? Because really she's sort of setting herself up potentially to be called a carpetbagger when she goes and tries to run somewhere else. She's setting herself up for a lot more attack and like, well, look, you abandon your position. And so is it master
Strategery.
is it yeah, is it strategery? Is it like what is it at this point?
I don't think it is strategery. In the words of W,
No, I think you're absolutely right. Very much feels like a loss of
identity.
yeah, it's a loss of identity. And she's running from that. She's going on The View. It's a cry for help, for God's sake. You're going on The View, you're going on CNN. I mean, she's dating an anchor for a far right news channel, right? Like that's who now she's going on CNN and doing interviews. And it's
Dating. What do you mean?
oh, you don't know who her boyfriend is?
Thought she was married.
No, it's a boyfriend. She's not married to the guy. Yeah, she's dating a gentleman who's an anchor for like a very far right news. Yeah.
Like Newsmax?
No, it's not Newsmax. It's
I thought she was married.
it's Brian Glenn is his
Okay.
name. He was the guy who gave Zelensky a bunch of shit when he was in the White House not wearing a suit. Which, interestingly enough, so Zelensky called it a costume. He said, "I'll wear a costume when I'm not in the middle of a war." But the word costume is actually the French word for suit. So, just for our tens of listeners who maybe weren't aware, that the French word for suit is costume. Real America's Voice.
Well, it's one of the big networks. I get it. And that's why we have to search it out. All right.
It's commonly known.
Anyway, that surprises me. The clearly showing my ignorance of her life, but I do think she is probably going through a really significant identity crisis. And when our tens of listeners who are probably all adults have probably had setbacks in their life in which they have had to go through an identity crisis and reevaluate themselves and think about things and step back. And that's what I think she's doing. Because you're right. The sort of, I hesitate to call it the rational thing because like any of us are rational at any given moment. But the rational thing would be, complete your time. You've committed to this, complete it, get through it.
Help your
But
constituents, right? Like make the votes that
you're
really,
right. If that's important to you,
yeah.
make it count.
If you don't feel like each party is doing their job, then your job is to
Right.
steer your votes in the direction that will help the constituents in your district get their needs met, right? Answer their messages, help the kids that need, who are trying to get into the academies, write the letters, do the things that, Congress people do.
What you may be hitting on something right there, and it just occurred to me is and this may, I mean, all I can speak toward is the moment. I don't know about at a point when I wasn't necessarily watching as closely as I watch anymore, but the moment right now is on multiple levels, generational levels. The moment right now is self interested. And the fact that she is dropping out does imply that she came into this self interested. This was for her own aggrandizement. And now that she is being cut at the knees by Daddy Trump, the core of Trumpism, that she is ready to disappear, to drop out, does kind of imply that she was not in it for her constituents to begin with. Now, what we have seen, though, is that she has made a shift from being the Molotov cocktail thrower that she was early on in her career to someone who is actually trying to litigate for her constituents. What's important to them? The Epstein files are important to them. Foreign engagements are important to them. Their health insurance is important to them. She has made this shift where she is now litigating for her constituents. It all fits that from an identity standpoint, she's made this move for various reasons, and I can't really speak to all of them. I can observe them, I can make guesses about them. My guess is that the weight of the responsibility has some effect on her. All of a sudden, it clicked in her brain that, oh my gosh, I represent 100,000 people or whatever, how many ever thousand people she represents. So she's come to recognize that. And then the core identity, Trumpism, MAGA, that's been taken away from her. And that cognitive dissonance, the conflict between what it takes to represent people, because people are not a thing. They're much more nebulous than that. And individuals can't be really contained within one set of Trumpism. They can't. It can capture their emotions. It doesn't capture their needs. And that's what's happened, that their emotions have been captured by Trumpism. Their needs extend far beyond that. And here she is trying to redefine herself. This dropping out does imply that when you take away her identity, the role becomes less relevant to her. And here's the other thing that I'm noticing is that having David in the room with me is a real pain in the ass because I am a middle-aged man who needs reading glasses. So in order to look at my notes, I need glasses. In order to look at David, I need to take them off. And it's really irritating me.
I mean, it definitely has I'm going to take my toys and go home
It really does.
if I can't. If I'm not going to win, I'm not going to play.
It carries that
Feel to
vibe.
it. But it also, I think it would be unfair to not acknowledge the fact that once you're in the out group with that group, it does become very dangerous. And she was definitely one of the people who started a lot of fires herself. Let's be honest, like one of the first things she did after she was elected was to post a picture of the squad with a picture of her with an AR-15 and saying, watch out. She was one of those people that alluded to a lot of political violence early in her career, especially. And now she's on the receiving end of that. There is some level of, I do get it, why now that she is receiving that, because she's receiving a lot of negative,
Well, there's a ton of incoming fire.
a lot of threats. Well, shit, it is probably a lot less fun to be on the receiving end of that. Why would she want to continue to be in that role with the target on her back? And you know what? Who cares?
Responsibility,
Well, no, and I agree.
commitment,
But she's
leadership.
But she has, I mean, she has, it's like you built up this machine that ate people alive,
Yeah.
right? That was designed to make it very unpleasant to be on the opposite side of it. But now you find yourself on the opposite side of it. And shit, why would you want to be there?
Well, here's a question for you. So what I have noticed is that I'm gonna just vaguely call it the left, even though there is no such thing. There are micro groups. But I have noticed they are quick to embrace her. So are we revealing that the universe, that the American people are very accepting, or are we revealing something else, that they're self-serving and all you need to do is show a little bit of allegiance to them to be embraced?
The greater left or
Well, and this comes from a number of individuals who are certainly left leaning in their politics. And what I've noticed is that they are 100% pro Marjorie Taylor Greene at this moment. All the animosity that they may have held in the past seems to just totally have disappeared. And they are completely their fans. They are behind her. So, are we just naturally empathic and caring as a people? And like, oh, you made a mistake. Come on. Or is this utterly self-serving?
yes.
Both.
Yes, both. There's no easy answer to that, right?
Uh,
And I don't think it's not black and white. I don't. It's just not binary in that way. It couldn't be. But I think the counter to that would be it has more to do with who's in power at the time. Because I think that a better example of it would have been the left probably got themselves into the position of not being in power because they didn't do that during the 2024 cycle of all of our discussions about why did this 18 to 29 age group of young men go so hard towards voting Republican. That had so much more to do with what you just said on the other side because they were not in power.
Mhm.
It really probably just has more to do with who is the out group at the time. And does it make sense for you to embrace those who are being pushed out by the in group? It is self serving and perhaps some level of empathy as well. Like, we get it now. We are being held down by those who are in power. It's uncomfortable. We've been hurt by this, so we'll take you in. But it also helps us gain power back. It flip flops, but it's always done that. It's been that back and forth.
It has, this is a personal sense, that the flip flop is more relevant and quick and overwhelming at this moment in time. But it really is, and you're right, it has probably comes down to a lack of a sense of self efficacy on one side, and any ally that we can pull in to the us will do it at this point. And when you're in power, you have a little more
You
flexibility.
kind of have a fuck 'em attitude. Like, we're in charge. We'll do whatever we want
Exactly.
and we'll consolidate our power and go our path. We're in
Yeah.
charge now. We're going down the route we want. Anybody who doesn't think the way we think is on the outs, and you create the out group, which is what everyone in power does to maintain power.
Yeah.
And then they lose power. And then you have the groups that had to somehow figure out how to gain power, which is what do? They open up their arms to everybody to overthrow whoever's in power. And that's American politics in a nutshell.
Probably politics, period.
We have talked this one to death. Let's move on. Any final thoughts?
I do.
I have a
And
feeling we're going to actually touch on this with our
probably.
last topic anyway. So,
I think it's happening in a bigger way across the nation right now, and I imagine our tens of listeners have felt a shift in the last month, 2 months away from what the prevailing zeitgeist was to something that's different. I know I feel it. I know I see it in other people. But yeah, let's move on.
all right. So, topic 2. IQAnon and the approval rating that can't go down. Trump's redefining smart so you're never wrong. A new poll showed that Trump's approval rating was slipping to fresh lows, including among Republicans, leading to a rare public acknowledgement from him that his ratings are down. He immediately added the qualifier that they're only down except with smart people, or smart people know he's doing a great job. The problem was he also recently noted that smart people don't like me, and the internet was responding with the obvious, your approval with smart people can't go down if it's already at zero. It's an interesting one. We've touched on cognitive dissonance before.
Extensively, we've touched on cognitive dissonance, and I think that's largely because it's such a human experience. I don't know who defined intelligence as being able to hold two conflicting thoughts at the same time and maintain your sanity. But it is interesting that if polls say people don't like you, you can either adjust your behavior and say, hey, I'm going to do it differently. Okay. Or you can redefine who counts as people. And really, what we've seen the extent of this is that who counts as people are really people that agree with me. And I don't mean me personally because nobody agrees with me. None of you are people in that definition. I mean, Donald Trump, he has defined it as who counts, who matters, who do we support, who do we give government funding to. It is the people that agree with him personally. And we've seen this in colleges. We've seen this in support to states, even under circumstances and when states are in a crisis. We've seen it across the board that if you don't agree with him, you're not a person. You're not someone who counts, who matters. And this is just a very public statement of something we all have already seen, that if you don't agree with him, you're not smart. And that plays a couple of roles. One role is it discounts dumb people. Dumb people don't matter. And then it also takes the people who support and it makes them feel better. It makes them feel like I'm a smart person. And it may resonate with a few people who are wavering and they tell themselves, I want to be smart. I want to be in that group. I want my IQ maintained.
That's right. That's how IQ works, actually, generally. It goes up and down based upon your approval of the sitting president. That's how it works, actually. I feel like we talk about it a lot. I don't know because we like to beat up on the president, more just because it seems to be a constant theme that keeps happening. It's relevant. It's always in the news. And that's just, again, I think one of his talents is making himself constantly relevant to life for most people. But I repeat myself, his level of success and accomplishment is quite impressive. He has been elected president twice. He's run 3 times. There's only one other president, I believe, who's done a split
I think so.
in that way. Historic. And that's an impressive feat. The fragility of his ego to feel the need, not feel the need, but the need to protect his ego from low approval ratings, which, let's be honest, man, this system is designed to have low approval ratings. To hit 50% approval ratings, I think you start at 50. You're going to start 50% approval rating now. I think that's 100% to you. Like that really is probably going to be, that's 100%. Just think about approval ratings and now as a proof. Just, think of it that way. Just double it. Like whatever it is, double. That's probably what the number is as a percentage. So, geez, man, take the win. Take whatever you can get. As you said, yeah, adjust the behavior. In his defense, he actually has recently met with Mamdani. There's some very genuine pictures of them very genuinely looking like they're enjoying each other. Now, I think traditionally, Donald Trump has always had very good relationships with the person in the room. Those don't tend to last unless that person continues to maintain that relationship from a distance. Unfortunately, that's been the history of it. But at the very least, he's having the conversation. That is something that's different. So there is a change. How the MAGA party will view that, I don't know. That will be interesting because Mamdani is, what does he consider himself? A
Democratic socialist.
yeah, that will be very interesting. The politics of today are very different, I think. Go back 30, 40 years. No way in hell would you see Ronald Reagan shaking hands with somebody calling themselves Democratic Socialist.
Unlikely.
But in all fairness, I think Ronald Reagan today might be considered a Democratic Socialist. Who the hell knows?
Yeah.
At this point, he's trying. So, hey, let's give him a gold star. It must be hitting him somewhere. He says this, but clearly it's striking a nerve.
So if we were doing a behavioral modification plan, yeah, we'll give him a gold star on this one.
Met with Mom Donnie. Gold
Yeah,
star.
gold
Shook his
star.
hand.
Way to go, buddy. Way to go, you. Oh, you.
Mom Donnie won by really working his ass off
Yeah.
throughout New York City.
Yeah.
And so I imagine he too is also a very charismatic guy. They're both New Yorkers.
Well, yeah, Donald Trump is very interpersonal in the way he approaches things. And in fact, I mean, you see it all the time in which he will often say, I like this person or they like me, as if that truly matters on a global or national stage. You know, whether you like someone or don't like someone, it doesn't matter. And you're representing a large group of people, like shouldn't necessarily come into it, but it does. We're
Well, to
humans.
him, it does.
And we're humans and we're designed for small group interactions. So, like is important. The whole thing reminds me of an old political trope in which, when the polls are not showing that you're being supported, you say that there is a silent majority. There is a silent group out there in the country that does support me. So, you know, this reminds me of the moral majority that we heard so much of in the 90s. And then I think Nixon would often reference the silent majority that weren't saying anything, weren't responding to polls, whatever, that still were in support of him. It's a political weapon that you can use that polls are wrong. Polls don't count. Opinion doesn't count. Most people still like me, and it allows you to maintain your own sense of self and what you're doing without really challenging yourself. The reality is that presidents are in an impossible position. It's way more complex than what any of us can give credit to, that they're making decisions that affect everyone. And anytime you make a decision that affects everyone, there's a good portion of the people that it negatively affects. And you're hopefully trying to do the best you can to reach the majority. And in his case, right now, this is a way to sort of disavow disapproval and say, smart people still like me. Even though he's clearly said in the past, smart people don't like me.
There's definitely genuine conflict there, but we do this exact same dance in our own brains when we try to choose medications. When we're working with a patient and we're trying to figure out what medication we use, there's research, but the research may not apply to that person. Data is data, and if it's useful to us, it's useful to us, and then when it's not useful to us, we don't use it. We just don't tend to contradict ourselves so publicly in this way, but we're fortunate because nobody gives a shit what we think.
True, because, we only have tens of listeners.
Believe you me, if we had a lot more listeners and we said something like this, they would definitely call us
Yeah.
out. And I'm sure that at some point somebody will call us out and say, you said the exact opposite of that before. And we'll be like,
Yeah. Well,
que sera, sera.
right. Well, the Dunning-Kruger effect, which says that the less you know about a topic, the more you think you know about that thing. So the less informed you are, the more confident you are in the answer. And this seems to be really relevant and maybe cultural. We used to, at least my sense is, we used to respect authority and respect education, and we do less now. And I don't know. I'm blaming Google. X number of years ago, when Google came on the scene, all of a sudden you could Google something and get an answer, and people have confused that with knowledge. The
Yeah.
idea that you can Google an answer, get it, has fooled people into thinking that they're smarter than they are, because you're getting the Google answer. And something, I tell patients constantly who come to me and say, I Googled this and this is what Google said I should have or what I have. And I'm like, Google is fantastic about possibilities, but not probability. It does not dial you in to what is the most likely. It just dials you into the list of things that are possible. And then you take over from there. You look at it and you find the thing you're either resonates with you or you're most afraid of, and you fear that, or you think that's the right answer. So we've been dealing with this in medicine for decades now, but this Dunning-Kruger effect, that the less you know, the more confident you are. So I don't know. This one actually, no, I can see it as narcissistic splitting.
Yes.
I can see it in terminology, but I still find it fascinating and frustrating at the same time.
We said it last week, to have such a fragile ego and to be in a position where you're, by definition, just going to have half the people not
Always.
like you. To want to protect yourself from that, to have such a narcissistic perspective, to love yourself as much as one does, as some people do, and you have so many people dislike you so openly, you and I don't walk around having to face polls about who likes us. I mean, that would be a challenge. Don't get me wrong, that would suck.
It would be incredibly challenging to one's ego.
Yeah. So even if you weren't a narcissist, but to be a narcissist and then to have to look at polls, yeah, it would be definitely something you would want to protect yourself. So to add to that, not just to like, let's just, I mean, paint the picture of most anybody who is in the spotlight and in all fairness has done a lot of impressive things, but then put into a position where half of a population by default is going to dislike you, then to have a poll put out there saying, do you approve of what this person is doing? To which, of course, at least 50% are going to say no.
Yeah.
And then to have a reporter stick a microphone in your face and say, did you see the poll that said that you fucking suck? What do you think? And then to have a response. Well,
Shut up, Piggy.
of course you're going to say something stupid. And you know what? Of course we're going to talk about it because
That's what we do.
if anything, shame on us. That makes us kind of shit. Now it's kind of our bad because we're bringing even more attention to the tens of listeners that. So this is
Right.
on us now.
Yeah,
It's kind of our fault. Fuck us.
100-ish
Fuck
people in the
us.
United States are now gonna be skewed because of our opinions. This does, and my last thought on this, we can move on, but it strikes me that this is an element of us diverging from policy. That when you are heavily invested in policy, that these are the policies that I believe in, polls have a different perspective. When it is about you individually, do people like me? Polls take on a whole different perspective. And this is another example how we no longer are a politic of policy. We are a politic of personality, of like. Who do I like? Maybe it's Matthew McConaughey, whoever. Throwback to the last episode. But if it comes down to like, you're going to take these polls in a way different perspective than if it is policy. And if it's policy, you're like, all right, maybe I need to reevaluate whether the policy works. When it is, gee, this is about me. People don't like me. That's a different thing. You're going to defend it differently and you respond to it differently.
And I think they've already shown, to be quite frank, is that when they assign a political affiliation to a policy, people will approve or disapprove based upon the political affiliation most of the time, regardless of whatever it was. It could be a policy that is Republican policy, but if you say it was a Democratic policy, the Republicans will say it's a terrible policy.
Always.
And vice versa. So, we just live in a ridiculous world at this point. It's all performative. And again, maybe this is on us for even bringing the fucking topic up, but
Maybe.
it was kind of silly, so we did.
Maybe we should just shut up and stop doing podcasts.
Nah, it's fun. Dunning-Kruger effect. We're experts now, right?
Oh, no doubt.
Maybe we should be more confident.
Maybe.
Hey, it's Rob from Shrink the Nation. As my friend David so eloquently states at the beginning of the show, we are clinicians, but we're not your clinician. We love to joke around and dive into the tough topics, but there's something really important we need to say. If you're struggling with your mental health or facing substance use issues, we want you to know you're not alone. We have dedicated our professional careers to mental health, and we care deeply about it. It's okay to ask for help. Reaching out to a professional in your area could be the first step toward feeling better. Don't wait. There's support out there, and it works. Please take that first step. We want you to be well. Now let's get back to the show. Oh, and don't tell David I said he was eloquent. He'll be insufferable.
Let's move on.
This one's great.
This one really is, we'll try not to get canceled for even mentioning it, but this one's interesting because there was, and I actually hadn't heard of this until it's brought up, but there is apparently a worship music algorithmic church song that came out that was AI generated Christian nationalist anthem titled We Are Charlie Kirk that's been on Spotify and YouTube, posted on the creator named Spalexma. It was recorded after Turning Point USA founder Charlie Kirk was fatally shot. It blends praise song cliches with political idolatry, lyrics about carrying his flame, fighting for the gospel, and honoring his courage. But it's been getting flamed as the worst song ever made, basically pointing to its uncanny valley vibe and the bizarre spectacle of an AI system manufacturing a martyr anthem for a very online movement. The song itself is I played it for as long as I could kind of tolerate hearing it. It's an AI generated song, I suppose. I don't know, is what it is. I think what it brings up is kind of interesting in that what we're looking at seems to be this Charlie Kirk is now the right kind of version of the hashtag Me Too movement. I think that's what interests me in this. And they've actually even blended it with it's this odd trolling version of it. They've blended it with AI, which also really pisses off the left already. So you've mixed it in with gospel, which for some reason pisses off the left too. I don't know why gospel pisses off the left. Like the right has somehow cornered the market on religion as if like you can't be spiritual or religious on any like that you have to be right wing to whatever. But in order to even mention Charlie Kirk is somehow a canceling thing. It's an interesting thing to watch play out.
For our listeners, I do recommend we would play it, but there's certain licensing issues. I recommend you go to Spotify, search out "We Are Charlie Kirk," and see if you can make it through it. I couldn't, but I have to also admit it's an earworm. I keep singing it to myself, even though it's not a good song. I find myself repeating the lyric. And
It's not really my cup of tea, I would say.
maybe,
Maybe if it was
but they are
Sun
trying.
Darts, I could listen to
Yeah,
over and over again.
for those who are Letterkenny fans. They have claimed the authority of God in that song, which is going to irritate a certain percentage of individuals. They've also lionized Charlie Kirk in a way that I don't necessarily think is realistic. They made him the warrior of what's right, and that he went into battle and knew he was under threat and did it anyway. And I don't know if that's right. And truthfully, he shouldn't have had to make a choice to go into battle and to face execution, to face death. It's the United States. He should not have had to face that. But I don't think he walked onto that stage that day thinking that that's what's happening. So the rewriting of history, the rewriting of his intent and his, whatever internal struggles he had, it doesn't necessarily feel right. But it's interesting you're comparing it to Me Too. Speak toward that more.
Well, there was, you kind of alluded to it in the last episode as well. The movement that, in so many ways, it was a comment. A lot of people who were called out in Me Too did some atrocious, horrible, awful things and had it coming. So bad stand, sexual assault, rape, horrible, horrible stuff. And frankly, it needed to happen. The extent to which it got, there were probably, I don't know, I can't say, I don't know the number, but there were probably some people who got wrapped up in it who shouldn't have been. And there were people who probably felt like they were negatively impacted by it, who were unfairly impacted by it, and they felt persecuted. Now, there were probably people who were impacted by it who probably really should have been, who also felt like it was unfair. That's not for me to decide. But that movement was very much a shifting culture that had not been there before, clearly. And it certainly, the fracturing and the festering and what eventually turned into this counterculture movement that came and turned into MAGA, right? It was, we are tired of being told, no, we don't like the PC culture. Well, and we don't like being canceled, right? The cancel culture. We don't like this. Okay. Well, that's what happened with Charlie Kirk. If you said anything online that wasn't pro Charlie Kirk, you were going to be doxxed. You were going to be canceled. And they went after your heart. And they were telling your whoever you work for, whatever. That was absolutely their version of it. And I find that interesting, right? It's just a fascinating thing.
Well, it does remind me, there's a quote by a guy named Hoffman. So go ahead and drink.
Uh, was going to anyway.
Yeah. Eric Hoffman, he said something to the effect, and there's various versions of this, but really he said, every great cause begins as a movement, becomes a business, and eventually degenerates into a racket. What tends to happen is that these movements that are good ideas, they are relevant ideas. The Me Too culture and the Me Too movement was relevant and actually had good cause. It did degenerate into a caricature of itself. It got amplified over time. And this Charlie Kirk thing seems to be being amplified to the point where it becomes a caricature of itself. That, fundamentally, we can all step back from this and we can say nobody deserves to die for exerting their free speech rights. We can say that, and we can all, I think, all agree with it, that shouldn't be a thing in mainland United States, in the middle of Utah or wherever this occurred. I think it was in Utah.
Valley, yeah.
Yeah, that we can all agree with that unequivocally. But then there's this song, and this song is a caricature. This song is ridiculous, and it's a racket. It has progressed, and maybe this is the function of social media or however it went so fast, but it progressed from hey, here's the idea. Man who is exerting his First Amendment rights and has every right to do so should not be killed for doing that. Yeah, we agree. And then it became something else and something else and something else, and it magnified. And now we have this song, and, I'm going to encourage everyone to go listen to the song. And if you love it, awesome. I doubt anyone's going to love it. They're going to.
No, I doubt that. I disagree with you. I believe some people will very much love it. I think some people really will love it.
No accounting for taste, David. No accounting for taste.
Yeah, no, I think some people really like it.
But it struck me because the imagery extends beyond the event. The imagery is God. The imagery is this sort of the universal, and the imagery is of him as a warrior. And again, my argument is that, and I think a lot of people at their core will recognize he was there for his own purposes. He was there for his own business. And again, not saying he should have, in any fashion or form, should have suffered the outcome that he suffered. What I am saying is that he wasn't there as a martyr. He wasn't Joan of Arc jumping up on the stake to be burned for her beliefs. If he had known that he was under threat, I don't think he would have went out on that stage. So this wasn't an act of heroism on his part. Again, I'm not detracting from him. I'm not saying that he was a coward or anything like that. I just don't think this song captures the moment, and it becomes a caricature. It becomes a racket. It becomes a thing that someone did in order to get attention, to get likes, to get clicks, whatever.
Well, yeah, I think there's maybe a lot of assumptions within that, especially with the nature of the internet, would be that it could be a song that's just designed to own the lids. It is certainly using a medium that pisses off the left. It is using a topic that pisses off the left. And it is the ultimate song designed to piss off the left. If that's what it's there for, excellent. It's probably doing just that. It is certainly gaining enough attention online for that purpose. If it is there in his honor, well, it's there. It's a song. It's certainly not anything more. It's not an historical account. It's a song.
Well, and what I'm curious about, it has been touted as totally AI generated. I listened to it. I can't tell. And that's the other element to this. The power of AI at this moment in time to create things that resonate, that make a difference. Who knows how this will play out? But right now, I think it's a source of ridicule. It's funny, or it's being perceived as funny, because there is that element of it just feels over the top. And again, I'm going to send our listeners out, go to Spotify, search out We Are Charlie Kirk, listen to it. If I am wrong, I've listened to it a grand total of one time.
Half a time.
Half time, because I couldn't make it through the damn thing.
Yeah.
I couldn't.
Might have dropped a really sick beat in the middle that we missed.
It may have, but finally there was a worship song for people who find Nickelback too intellectually challenging.
No, but I know. I mean, if it really is, if it's a song that is designed to troll the left, brava. I mean, they did it.
They did it. They did it.
You did it with AI, which was enough, to be honest. It was enough.
Yeah.
You made a song to piss off the left. Hey, good for you. And you used a topic that if you talk about it, it can get you canceled.
Oh yeah, we are walking the ragged edge.
We're halfway there. It is what it is. I think it's silly. People are still going to love it.
I don't think people are going to love it.
I do. I think a lot of people will love it. The people will love it because, and again, I think as a response to Me Too, and there was a difference, right? It took a while for Me Too to escalate to the level that it did. With what happened with Charlie Kirk, it was almost instantaneous.
It was.
At how it escalated because it was retribution for the damage that people felt, the experience. They felt hurt. They felt injured.
My gosh, I'm going to take a hit out of the bottle proper right now over this one.
Well, they really were, because when there were people who felt quite hurt. And let's be honest, when Donald Trump won this last election, that was retribution for that cultural shift, for that movement. It was, we are taking back, undoing all of that hurt. And that right there, that was the thing that they could really stick it to the people. They had a way to really dig in the knife. It was very much you were attacking somebody who just died.
Yeah.
You're attacking this person who is standing up for something that we care about, free speech. We are coming after you the way you came after us.
Us are sexual predators.
Well, but not all of them, not everybody was. And that's the problem, the racket. So a lot of the people who got swept up into this, who got swept up into the Charlie Kirk thing, weren't attacking Charlie Kirk as well.
They weren't.
They were getting swept up just by not saying positive things too. But it was so swift. It's becoming a caricature, as you said, because they're just putting his name on everything now. You know what this reminds me of? It's
Letterkenny.
It reminds me of when you're in elementary school with a group of kids in the 80s and you're playing keep away with the ball. And there's that one kid who just doesn't really get it. And he never gets the ball. But then for some reason, somebody feels bad for that kid and they throw him the ball that one time and he fucking runs home with the ball because he doesn't get the game. Like it's not keep away for fucking ever, dude. Too much. You went too far too quick.
What this reminds me of is the theory of the one up, one down in relationships. Maybe this might resonate. So in your relationship, think about your relationship, that there's this dynamic in which you are either the winner or the loser. And you always overplay your hand, always. And when you're the winner, when somehow you are the moral winner and you feel that your partner, this resonates with them, they realize they made a mistake, whatever, and you play your hand so aggressively that you overplay your hand, and then now you're in the losing position. This also makes me wonder about social media, because the speed with which we are escalating into this valid complaint to overplaying the hand, going too far. It seems to be going so fast now. Our ability to do crazy things with AI, create entire, dirges. It's a dirge. It's Old Irish dirge for the dead. It seems to be going so fast that this one up, one down thing is vacillating like, a sine wave from high school calculus class. And I think we've killed this topic.
Yeah, I think
I know. Take a deep breath and a shot.
Take a shot. Okay. Well, we would be sad if we didn't mention he's just drinking straight out of the bottle now.
Why not?
We're just hitting the sauce straight up. All right.
Gotta get through.
So for our final topic, this is a bonus topic because, who doesn't love a final topic?
Who doesn't love to talk about a funeral?
Absolution at the National Cathedral. Dick Cheney's funeral. So if you were wondering why flags were at half-mast, it's because Dick Cheney died. And it's a really interesting one because Dick Cheney, he seemed to stay strong with where he stood politically. The way I pictured him was the human version of those lines on a dock that tell you where the tide is. He didn't move ever, it seemed, but politicians around him seemed to.
Yeah.
At least from the 2000s on. As far as what I understood about him from some folks who actually knew him earlier in his life when he was sec def, he was maybe a little less war crimey than maybe a little bit later. But in the 2000s, he was very, very maybe considered far right. But in this last election, he was considered fairly left. Now, he didn't change much. I don't think he changed. I think the tide shifted quite a bit politically. So that's the way I pictured it. I don't know if other people feel the same way. But yeah, at his funeral, what was it? You had
Rachel Maddow,
the Bidens, the Bushes, obviously. You had
Clinton.
Gore, Pence, Harris, obviously Liz Cheney. That makes sense. Who was not there would be,
Who wasn't invited?
not invited.
Donald Trump and JD Vance.
Yeah, they were not invited.
Yeah.
It just that very interesting.
Yes, he's an interesting character, and a character that, for whatever reason, and having lived through the Cheney years and bought into the Darth Vader caricature of him at a certain point in my life, particularly when I felt like he was the person that kept sending me to war. My sense of him, my relationship with him, my internal compass on him has varied a great deal. But what I can say, and this is the interesting thing, and maybe the point, the relevance to me, is the nature of projection. That I can look back now and say, I projected a lot on this guy, but the sweep of time showed that he was consistent. And, yeah, can we go back and micromanage and look at different moments in his life and question him? Yeah, I think there's a lot to question about him. But what we can also say was that there was an internal consistency with this man that is respectable. And he was never left. Did the left embrace him? They did, but he was never left. He stood for liberal democracy in the way he defined it, certainly. But he stood for what he believed in, and he stood for it his entire life. And he didn't fluctuate from that. Maybe the last of the old school politicians, the old style where this is my policy, this is what I believe, and I'm sticking to it. And whether public opinion approves of me or doesn't, I'm sticking to it. And interesting guy in that he held up the projection of a nation without giving an inch. And I find that incredibly respectable at this moment, even though I have disagreed with him much of my life. He exemplifies an America in which we used to disagree and still respect. There's this incredible amount of nostalgia I feel with his death. Am I going to cry tears for him? No, he made it to 84 and he started having heart attacks when he was 48 or something like that. It's like, this son of a bitch is unkillable. He made it well beyond his use-by date. But what I do find is the nostalgia of respecting someone I disagree with. His funeral exemplifies this. Who came to his funeral was this incredible mix of all kinds of different sides, politicians, perspectives, whatever. And they came to celebrate him, to pay respects to him because of his consistency. And what we don't, there was an authenticity to him that you may have disagreed with, you may have disagreed with deeply. And when you disagreed with him, you may have had that, and I did this, temptation to make it personal. And I am guilty. I am absolutely guilty. Back when I felt like he kept sending me to war, I disagreed with him and I felt personally aggrieved by him. But the sweep of time has taught me that he was consistent and authentic and he stuck by his beliefs, and I respect that a great deal from a leadership standpoint, from an age standpoint. And maybe this is 20 years of time that has passed and I've been in leadership positions and been questioned and whatever, and god damn it, at this moment in time, authentic is the best, the most genuine show of respect that I can give any human at this TikTok moment in time. He was authentic. And he shot people in the face. And no one mentioned his war crimes at his eulogy.
Yeah, it's weird. It's almost like they forgot about those. You would be challenged to say that he wasn't putting America first in his perspective. He would do anything if he felt that it was in the best interest of his country, including war crimes.
Yeah, he was above party. He was below Geneva.
Yeah.
He existed somewhere in that zone.
Now, in that, with time, there is a level of that of nostalgia that comes in to say, you do miss that. You miss being able to look at your politician and say, I don't agree with everything that you do, but I know that everything that you're doing is coming from a place that is putting your country above everything else. Now, there were probably better ways to do that.
Probably.
And there are probably
Better ways to do a podcast. And here we are.
ways to not manipulate intelligence to get things accomplished. Now, if I've learned anything from being in the military, as long as I have, is that the amount of information that I have available to me at the level that I'm at is not always the amount of information that somebody else above me has available to them.
He was the vice president of the United States, so the idea that he had information above him.
Probably better than mine. Yeah, so to assume that accomplishing a mission, sometimes we have to accomplish a mission and move forward and not always asking why.
Yeah.
But, it does help when there are WMDs and you're not just being told based off of bullshit. Intel can be screwed up.
Intel is often screwed up. So, what I have learned from my time in the military and, commanding at the level, my maximal command level was a brigade, is that I was frequently disliked because the mission, the information that I had, the demands didn't really square with making everyone like me. And, I can say personally, I experienced a great deal of angst over it. It broke my heart when I had to do things that hurt individuals. It made me, it was an incredible anxiety provoker, we'll say. I wanted everyone to like me. And that's the thing I respect about him, actually. And this is maybe go back to me as a 30-year-old, I'll say kid now, but 30-year-old kid who was on the receiving end of orders. I resented the shit out of him. I resented the hell out of him. And I saw W as a puppet and I saw him as Darth Vader. Now I can say he made some tough calls, and whether W intervened or played a role in them, that's a separate episode maybe. Although I have to admit, W, I wish he was here right now. I think we'd have a good time with him.
I imagine he'd throw back some beers.
I
It'd
think
be a
he'd
good
throw
time.
back some beers.
And some bourbon.
I think we'd pull out the canvases. We might do some portraits. You might paint a little bit for us.
Could we shoot some skeet? You might get swept. You might get that'd be Cheney. I don't know if I'd want to.
Yeah, but even he, again, we'll revisit W in a future episode maybe. But what I can say is I respect his authenticity and his consistency. That he had a perspective, he felt it was right, and he held the line. And when you're a soldier, holding the line counts for a lot. That very often you're there, you make your call, you have to stay on the line, you have to live the consequences. And he held the line. And the fact that there were so many people that came out to celebrate him, to remember him, I think it's important. And I think what I loved the most about his funeral was that it reminded me of old America. And I miss old America.
He did things. He did stay consistent.
He did things. Thank you for dumbing that down, David.
Well, what I'll say is
he did things, folks.
He
did some things.
He did a lot of things. No, he did things that I imagine were probably, he did questionable things from his perspective, were the tough calls, but in his mind, the right calls, unwavering in what he chose to do. He did them probably, and I think it was pretty clear that he would do things that any other politician would not when he thought it was the right thing to do. And so I even look in hindsight, looking back, even in doing the things that we would look back now and say, you should not have done that, dude. He clearly made those decisions with nothing probably but the best interest of our country in mind. So even if we don't appreciate that he made those decisions, he made them with with good intentions. Horrible things with good intentions in mind. And you know what the truth is? He made the choices he made, and
And he lived with them.
the truth is, so did we. We lived with them.
Mhm.
So, kudos to him.
And that's the nature of being a leader. You make your decisions as best you can. You have to live with them, and the people you lead have to live with them. And then you have to live with the ramifications of that. And it ain't easy. It is not an easy. And he did it. He did it, and he never complained.
Well, we don't know what the consequences would have been if he didn't make the decisions otherwise. And so, I mean,
Never.
the truth is, our country has been incredibly successable for a very, very long time. And, in a lot of ways, probably because of some of the decisions that he made, whether we like him or not. Kudos to him. And he has moved on to another place. So those are our stories. We've gone super long, which is great. We intended it to be that way on
We
purpose.
did. This is what we'd call a bonus.
Prescriptions, though. Let's get a prescription in here just
Boy.
for the shit of it. Why not? For shiggles.
Yeah, I'm gonna go. I'm gonna. This is a callback to Marjorie Taylor Greene stepping down. I'm gonna say that all politicians have to have a step down protocol, which includes a 6 to 12 month no camera, no podcast, no best selling book. You have to do one thing that is tangibly helpful to your former constituents, and then you can't tweet about it.
Okay.
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 That's my prescription for those leaving leadership. And that's how you prove that you were a leader and not there for self-aggrandizement. If you walk out of leadership position and the first step is to write your best-selling book, pin that lobbying contract, or the first step is to somehow self-aggrandize, you may not have been there for the right reasons.
Yeah. All right. So my prescription will be that every state funeral now requires a mandatory segment titled "Here's What It Cost." And no rage, just itemized war crimes, read by Morgan Freeman over a slide deck. That's it.
I'm envisioning Morgan Freeman reading off of
That's right.
that the sweet sounds of Morgan Freeman.
Oh my God, it'd be delicious.
He's a national treasure, folks.
He really is.
Yeah.
He really is.
Yeah, I encourage all of our tens of listeners who have a much better voice than I to really work on your narration skills, because someone needs to fill that void.
I know. All right. Well, thank you for sticking around. We really appreciate our tens of listeners this week. We're going to cut this down, hopefully, to something listenable. We'll see how that works out.
Hell, our tens of listeners are going to be totally into this extended, this makes up for our missed week.
Yeah, I doubt that seriously. But all right, smash that subscribe, hit like, share with, 10 people.
Somebody.
Share with somebody if you can.
For God's sakes, people, share this.
ShrinkTheNation.com. Sign up for a weekly newsletter, and we'll cue up that music, and we are out.